Today we will learn about the ethical hacking Module 5 Vulnerability Analysis. This is module objective. Overview of vulnerability research, vulnerability assessment and vulnerability scoring system. Overview of vulnerability management life cycle, vulnerability assessment phase. Understanding various types of vulnerability and vulnerability assessment technique. Understanding different approach of vulnerability assessment solution. Understanding different type of vulnerability assessment tool and criteria for choosing them. Vulnerability assessment tool and generating and analyzing vulnerability assessment report. Vulnerability research, the process of analyzing protocol, service and configuration to discover vulnerability and design flaw that will expose on operating system and its application to exploit, attack or misuse. Vulnerability are classified based on severity level, low level, medium level and high, and exploit range local or remote. An administrator needs vulnerability research to gather information concerning security strength, threat and attack surface, attack vector and technique. Number 2, to discover weakness in operating system and application and alert the network administrator before a network attack. Number 3, to gather information to aid in the prevention of security issue. And number 4, to know how to recover from the network attack. This example for resource for the vulnerability research, we have Microsoft Vulnerability, Dark Reading, Security Tracker, Trend Micro, Security Magazine, Pentest Magazine, SC Magazine, Exploit Database, Security Focus, HackNet Security, HackerStorm, and Computerworld. What is vulnerability assessment? Vulnerability assessment is an in-depth examination of the ability of the system or application, including current security procedure and control, to withstand the exploitation. It recognizes, measures and classifies security vulnerability in a computer system, network and communication channel. A vulnerability assessment may be used to identify weaknesses that could be exploited, predict the effectiveness of additional security measures in protecting information resource from attack. Information obtained from the vulnerability scanner include network vulnerability, open port and running service, application and service vulnerability, application and service configuration error. Vulnerability scoring system and database. Common Vulnerability Scoring System, CVSS. CVSS provides an open framework for communicating the characteristic and impact on IT vulnerability. A quantitative model ensures repeatable, accurate measure and wide enable user to view the underlying vulnerability characteristic used to generate the score. This example, CVSS version 3 and CVSS 2.0, and we have CVSS calculator. Vulnerability Scoring System and Database. Common Vulnerability and Expose, CVE, a publicly available and free-to-use list of directory of standard identifier for common software vulnerability and expose. This example for CVE. National Vulnerability Database, or NVD, an US government repository of standard based on vulnerability management data represent using security content automation protocol. The data enable the automation of vulnerability management, security measurement and compliance. The NVD include database of security checklist, reference, security-related software flaw, misconfiguration, product name and impact metric. This example for NVD. Common Weakness Enumeration, CWE, a category system for software vulnerability and weakness. It is sponsored by the National Cybersecurity FFRDC, which is owned by MITRE Corporation, with support from US CERT and the National Cybersecurity Division of US Department of Homeland Security. It has over 600 category of winners, which enable CWE to be effectively employed by the community as a baseline for witness identification, mitigation, and prevent effort. This example for CWE. Vulnerability management life cycle. First, we must identify the asset and create a baseline, and then we use vulnerability scanner, and then we do the risk assessment, remediation, verification, and lastly monitor. Pre-assessment phase, we need to identify the asset and create baseline. First, we must identify and understand business process. Number 2, we must identify the application, data, and service that support the business process and perform code review. Number 3, identify approved software, driver, and the basic configuration of each system. Number 4, create an inventory of all asset, priority, and rank the critical asset. Number 5, understand the network architecture and map the network infrastructure. Number 6, identify the control already in place. Number 7, understand policy implementation and standard compliance. Number 8, define the scope of the assessment. Number 9, create information protection procedure to support effective planning, scheduling, coordination, and logistics. For the vulnerability assessment phase, first, we must examine and evaluate physical security. Number 2, check the misconfiguration and human error. Number 3, run vulnerability scan. Number 4, select type of scan based on the organization or compliance requirement. Number 5, identify and priority vulnerability. Number 6, identify the false positive and false negative. Number 7, apply business and technology contact to scanner result. Number 8, perform OSINT information gathering to validate the vulnerability. Number 9, create vulnerability scan report. Post-assessment phase. For the risk assessment, we need to perform risk configuration, assess the level of the impact, and determine the threat or risk level. And then for the remediation, prioritize the remediation based on risk ranking. Develop an action plan to implement the recommendation and remediation. Perform root cause analysis. Apply patch. Capture lesson learned and conduct awareness training. For the monitoring, predict vulnerability scan and assessment. Timely remediation of identified vulnerability. Intrusion detection and intrusion prevention law. Implement of policy, procedure, and control. For the verification, we rescan of the system to identify if applied fix remediation vulnerability. Perform the dynamic analysis and review of attack surface. For the vulnerability classification, we have misconfiguration, default installation, buffer overflow, unpatched server, design flaw, operating system flaw, application flaw, open service, and default password. Type of vulnerability assessment. Active assessment use a network scanner to find host, service, and vulnerability. Passive assessment used to sniff the network traffic to discover present active system, network service, application, and vulnerability present. External assessment assess the network from the hacker perspective to discover, exploit, and vulnerability that are accessible to the outside world. Internal assessment scan the internal infrastructure to discover, exploit, and vulnerability. Host-based assessment conduct a configuration level check to identify system configuration, user directory, file system registry setting to evaluate possibility of compromise. Network-based assessment determine possible network security attack that may occur on the organization system. Application assessment test analyze all elements of the web infrastructure for any misconfiguration or detect content non-vulnerability. For database assessment, focus on testing database such as MySQL, MS SQL, Oracle, for the present of the data exposed or injection type of vulnerability.